Welcome into Rounding the Bases.
Round the bases. Everybody knows Joe Goldberg. It's around the bases. Everybody knows Joe Goldberg.
Hey everybody, welcome into another episode of Rounding the Bases, presented by Community America Credit Union, invested in you. Shout out as always to my friends at Chief of Staff Kansas City. If you're looking for a job, looking to hire someone, looking for great advice or resource, in or out of Kansas City for that matter, check them out, chiefofstaffkc.com, making connections that matter. This is a special episode, holiday season, and I thought in my role as a speaker, as a podcast host, and within the baseball role as well, but certainly in the speaking and the podcast world, I am inundated. I don't know if that's the right word. That would make it sound like it's a bad thing. Maybe it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. But I get a lot of book suggestions. And with a lot of my speaker friends too, we release books. I've got 2 books. And so constantly, hey, I got this new book out. Can you promote this? Can you look at this? And one, for the great readers out there, I don't know how you get through them all. I pick the ones that I've got time for, that are really of interest, or that I need maybe for personal development, some for entertainment, depending on the mood that I'm in. But I thought, with it being holiday season, that we would have different guests on this episode to talk about different books that could be great gift ideas, different variety as well. And we could probably do one of these shows every week, by the way, but that's not what this podcast is. But it is a podcast that does like to promote a lot of good causes and inspiration, or sometimes just great entertainment and history. And today you kind of get a tie of history and sports and just great storytelling. And that's always important to me. By the way, I haven't mentioned to you as a holiday gift idea my book, but you hear about that a lot. Small Ball, Big Dreams is the newer book that came out this year. If you're interested, it's all over the place, so you could find that. But my first guest on this episode is Chelan David, a Lawrence, Kansas native and business solutions partner at Johnson County Community College, whose sophomore title, Stories From the Phog, is a must-read for every KU basketball fan. Experience the magic of Allen Fieldhouse's greatest moments as told by the players, announcers, and coaches who made it iconic. Available now online at all major retailers and at indie booksellers in the Kansas City area. So I am excited right now to welcome to the show the first of my guests, Chelan David. Chelan, how are you?
Good. Thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
Well, it's great to have you. And, I was joking with you beforehand too, that maybe if you're not a KU fan, you might not be as interested as the KU fans. There are enough KU fans out there, but I would argue that if you have ever stepped foot in Allen Fieldhouse, you understand that it's just different than anywhere else. I've always said, Chelan, that going up, in one of my early jobs, I worked games at Lambeau Field. That was like walking into history, walking into however you want to describe it, a Mecca, a palace. Football's religion up there. I would say the same thing every year when I go to Fenway Park. There's just something different about it. And I think that's the same as well about Allen Fieldhouse. You went to school there. You've done a lot of work on this book. What is so special about the Phog?
Yeah, it is an incredibly special place. I went to my first game at Allen Fieldhouse when I was in 4th grade. That's back in 1982, and KU wasn't nearly as good back then. In fact, I had a losing record that year, which is hard to believe. But just the first time I set foot in the building, I fell in love with it. The building, the history, the players, the pep band, smell of popcorn, everything about it. And there's, when it doesn't matter what game it is. If it's a non-conference game, a meaningless game in November, if it's a rivalry game in February or March, it's always packed to the rafters, loud, very loud. And to your point, it's one of those places where you step in the building, and even if there's not anyone there, it's completely empty. There's just it's kind of got mystique to it. And several people I interviewed for the book said that. You just go in there and you feel something special. And I have been to Lambeau Field, not for a game, but doing a tour. And it's the same thing. And the same with Fenway. They're just special places.
Yeah. I think Wrigley's that way as well. And there are a few venues. I've never been to any of the major tennis ones, but I got to think that stepping into Wimbledon or Roland Garros or the US Open. I mean, all of them, the Masters, that they're just certain places that are magical. Tell me about the process with this book and and what it was like to put together something that I'm guessing was such a labor of love.
Yeah, it really was. It is a passion project of mine. And I started about 2 years ago, started, the process, writing about some of my favorite memories. And it really encapsulates the last 40 years of Kansas basketball. And originally, when I was first going to write it, it was mainly going to be kind of from a fan's perspective, with some of my friends and, just shared experiences. But I started reaching out to people associated with the program, and I was surprised at how many people got back to me, from coaches to players and other people associated with the program. And even some people you might not expect to be in the book, but like people from the band, people that make it, people that help make it special, the game special. And I think it is a unique book because it is from a fan's perspective. It's a first person account, and then kind of tying in some of the greatest moments with perspectives from players or coaches or people that help make those moments happen.
I love that you mentioned the band, or not just the players and the coaches, and you've got some big name players and coaches in there as well when you're talking about the Bill Selfs and the Roy Williams, and of course you could just do an all-star team worth of superstar names that went on to NBA stardom, or just legends at KU, whether or not they did make it to the next level. There's so many great stories. But when you mention the band, I sit there and think so many of my memories at baseball stadiums all over the country oftentimes involve that usher that I see every single time, or the people behind the scenes that become part of the fabric that, by the way, are there oftentimes much longer than the play. At KU, a great player might only be there for 1 year. But
nowadays,
nowadays, who within the book for you was a wow moment where you had to pinch yourself? Okay, you got a job to do, you got to play it cool, but who in there were you saying, wow, I can't believe I'm talking to this person and they're telling me this?
Yeah. For me, it's Larry Brown. He was a coach in the 80s, Hall of Fame coach. He's still the only coach to win a championship in college basketball and pro basketball. And I idolized him and that 86 team in particular, one of the great KU teams, as well as the 88 team with Danny Manning. But I did have to pinch myself with Larry Brown. It took a while to get hold of him. He actually called me late one evening, and I was like, oh, wow, Larry Brown. I'm speaking to Larry Brown. And some of the stories that he is able to relate, certainly about KU, but he's had an incredible career. And he actually was a standout player, too. I think people forget he was on the 1968 Olympic team. But yeah, he had some incredible stories, and he still has such a love for Kansas KU basketball. He was there for 5 years, took the team to 2 Final Fours, and he's kind of one that turned the program back around. And then after Larry Brown, Roy Williams came in, elevated it to another level, and then Bill Self has taken it even to another further heights, which is hard to imagine. But Larry Brown, he told me that the first time he was in Allen Fieldhouse, he was playing for North Carolina, and North Carolina made a swing through the Midwest, and they played KU, K-State, and Creighton. And he still remembers going in at the very end of, in a game. He was an underclassman, and back then, underclassmen didn't play very much. It was basically the seniors or juniors, and he was really nervous. And they had the warm-ups back then were clasps. They weren't like tearaway jerseys like they are now. So he spent 2 minutes trying to get his warm-up jerseys off, and said he missed most of the time he was going to play. But some of the stories and about the history of the program and some of the memorable moments is pretty special to speak with him.
Okay, give me one story that, and I love and hate this question for many of my guests. Not everybody gets it, but asking a favorite story, a favorite memory, a favorite this is kind of like asking somebody to pick their favorite kid. But you collected all of these stories as a connoisseur, as a fan, first and foremost. Do you have one? It doesn't even have to be a famous one, too. I mean, sometimes I find that the best ones are the under the radar ones. But what was that story to you? When someone says to you, what's your favorite? What's that go-to story that if I should start with one piece, what was it in the book for you?
Yeah, and this is actually how I started the book. Not a very memorable game because KU wasn't very good, but it was my first game. We were playing Missouri, who's a top 10 team. They had Steve Stepanovich and John Sundvold, and Norm Stewart was coaching them. And it wasn't even a sellout. I remember my mom got me and my sister tickets. Like, we just walked up to the ticket window. Tickets were about the same price as a movie back then. And it was a low scoring game. KU lost by 1 point. It's 41-40. That's back before the shot clock and the 3 point line. And I just remember I was on the edge of my seat the whole game. I wanted KU to win so badly. And to me, I still remember that moment, that very first game. And probably there's very few people probably that remember that game anymore. But another one that's very memorable to me is when I was in college. We played Indiana. Bobby Knight was the coach. Is in 1993. And Chuck Vaughn hit a game-winning 3 point shot as the clock expired. And still there are people who say that's as loud as ever Allen Fieldhouse has ever been. So that's a very memorable moment as well.
All right, last thing before I let you go. The book, people can find the book all over the place. How would you describe this cathedral of a basketball arena? I don't even know if arena is the way to describe it. This field house, because it is not an arena like most college basketball arenas, and it should never change, in my opinion. It should be like Fenway Park, where it's always there. You have to keep it modern, but you still have to have that old feel. It's going to still be warm in there sometimes, all of that. How would you describe to someone that has never been to Allen Fieldhouse what they're walking into?
Yeah, and that is, I agree with you. It's not like a typical arena. In fact, Jay Billis, the national broadcaster who attended Duke, calls it the St. Andrews of college basketball. And most people refer to it as the cathedral of college basketball. It's so unique. But for somebody that's never been there before, it's I'd say jaw dropping. You go in and there's a Hall of Fame when you first enter that spans over 120 plus years of Kansas basketball. Some of the great players that have been through, including Wilt Chamberlain and Danny May and Clyde Lovellette, Paul Pierce, the coaches. But when you walk in for the first time, you see the banners hanging from the rafters, and it just looks like it looks kind of like an old barn with seats. It's not modernized. I mean, it is modernized, but not like the new arenas that you see. There's still windows, which is very rare for an arena. And I think one of the people I interviewed for this book was Warren Corman, one of the original architects for Allen Fieldhouse. Great guy who just recently passed away, but at the age of 98. But the windows actually used to function, and you could open them to get air in. But, one of the things that Warren Corman told me is that I asked him how long the Allen Fieldhouse might last, and he said there's buildings in Europe that are thousands of years old. As long as you keep a good roof on Allen Fieldhouse, it'll be there forever. So I think it's here to stay. Fortunately, it's not going anywhere. And I asked Travis Scott, the current athletic director, too, if it'll always be called Allen Fieldhouse with all the naming rights and things that have changed in terms of revenue generation. And he said, yeah, it's always going to be Allen Fieldhouse. It's always going to be James Naismith Court for the foreseeable future. Those things are going to be in place. And those are some of the things that make it special. It's longevity, generations of fans, bringing their kids, and then their kids grow up and they're bringing their kids. So I think it's the passion, it's the history, it's the traditions. Like when other players are announced, people are tearing up the student newspaper and throwing it up, and the Beware the Phog banner, all those things that make it a special place. The waving of the wheat is either an opposing player fouls out or the game's pretty much over. So yeah,
so much tradition. Yeah, so much tradition passed on from generation to generation. Excellent gift for anyone that is looking. The book came out in October, so still relatively fresh off the presses, so to speak. Stories from the Phog, 40 Years of Kansas Basketball, written by Chelan David. The foreword by the play-by-play man and my friend Brian Haney, who does such an excellent job. Chelan, good luck with the book. Happy holidays. I hope everyone will pick it up. It's available throughout the area and online, of course, and everywhere else. So, Chelan, thanks so much for spending time today, and congrats on the book.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. I appreciate it so much, and thanks for having me on the show. It's great speaking with you.
All right, let's move on with the book episode right now. And my next guest, who is a repeat guest, but it's been a number of years, and so I'm really excited to have him back. Next up on this special installment of Rounding the Bases is Mr. Frank Clay Jr., a poet and best-selling author whose new book, Yes, You Can, was written to guide the young adult in your life. In it, he shares 40 wisdom-filled messages penned from the perspective of a father and a grandfather that will empower those navigating early adulthood to own and live their best lives. Yes, You Can is available for purchase on Amazon. And I'm so happy right now to really reunite with a friend of mine because he moved away from Kansas City and down, I think, to the Atlanta area. And
Yes.
being the dad and being a grandfather and being a retiree and an occasional golfer and still able to write as well. Frank, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing fine, Joel. Good to be here. Thank you for having me on.
You know, I remember your last book, so different than this one, and you've got so many experiences in life. I mean, your journey is such a good one, and I know that it's helped shape you. But first African American to sell cell phones back in 1984, and then a very long career, and then you were speaking, you were writing, and you're doing all these things. I love the fact that at 70 years old now, which sounds pretty young to me, that you're still putting out work that can help people. What was the inspiration on wanting to focus on the younger generation?
Well, you hit it right on the head, Joel. I just turned 70, and I was blessed this year to have my first granddaughter, Bria Dawson, attend college. And so knowing that she was going to be going to college and my next granddaughter was going to go to college the following year. And I had two grandsons pop up due to the pandemic, believe it or not, which is the reason why I'm in Atlanta. I knew that there might be the chance that I might not be able to share the wisdom that I have with my grandkids. And so I began to write a book in preparation for my granddaughter to go to college, giving her some of the wisdom that I have learned from over the years. And I wanted that same message to be given to each one of my grandchildren. So thus the evolution of the book, Yes, You Can, Empowering Your Life's Journey, Wisdom for Becoming the Best Version of Yourself. And so this is the book right here. I don't know if that's up there.
It looks great. And I think it's an interesting format too. 40 thought-provoking life messages. The reason why I say that that's interesting is, and I know you're full of wisdom, and I'm guessing you could have done more than 40. You could have done 100.
Trust me. Yes.
There's always room for more books if you want to do that. And we all know, or at least I know, you've written multiple books, many, many books. So maybe there's more, maybe there's not. I'm just curious about the process. I mean, there are some that are going to be very obvious. Like, you could debate what the most important is or whatever, but it's pretty obvious, right? The top 5, 10, 15, they're going in the book. But I'm guessing there came a certain point where you said, okay, what fits in the top 40? Or if I'm going to do 40, where's the cutoff? Because you could keep going on and on and on. How did you kind of come up with your 40 and how challenging was that process?
It was quite challenging, Joel, because I did research for this book, believe it or not. It started out in 2022. And even up until today, I continue to research to validate the importance of this book. And if I can, I'd just like to share with you a recent survey that validates the need for this book. Can I do that?
Please.
Okay, so Blue Shield of California, September 30th, 2025. New poll says 94% of Generation Z youth experience regular mental health challenges. 69% say they are talking to their friends about their concerns. 56% spend 44 or more hours on social media. 79% get all their entertainment and fun virtually, online. 84% I believe that the information on social media is misinformation.
Mm-hmm.
33% experience bullying, 72% impact their body image, their self-concepts.
Mm-hmm.
So I kept reading the research, and I could go back to 2022, and I will tell you that the statistics have gotten worse over the last 3 years.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of glad I wrote the book because I think it's on point. It's designed to have a conversation about these pressing issues. So really the research kind of helped me to shape the 40 messages that I wanted to share. And the overflow from writing the book came to me spiritually. I have to put that in there. Disclosure, I'm not a minister or a psychologist. But after I nailed it down to 40, it was revealed to me spiritually that I wrote 40 messages. Essentially, I was thinking about doing 40 chapters, but in the design of the book, I decided to say, here are the 40 messages. Mm-hmm. And then after I had written the book, reflected back on it, I started to think about Moses, 40 years in the wilderness, when it rained 40 days and 40 nights. All that was done to prepare us for what God was going to do. Yeah. So from a spiritual standpoint and a directional standpoint, I believe these 40 messages are preparing anyone who reads the book to prepare them for the future that they're going to embrace.
Yeah, and I want to talk
that would include my grandchildren.
Well, I want to talk about that as well, because this book, you mentioned some of those stats, and it's, that was just from California, but that could be anywhere. I mean, that's, everything that you just mentioned. If you're raising kids, if you have grandkids, for the most part, especially if you're a parent, those stats shouldn't surprise you, because it's probably a pretty good, when you were growing up, and you've got me by a few years, Frank, but we're a little bit of a generation apart, but I got 53 years of life experience here now, and I got kids, and they go through all this stuff, and it drives me nuts when us adults sit there and say, well, they're not this or no. By the way, they said the same thing about my generation. They said the same thing about your generation. But one difference is we didn't grow up with the cell phones and the social media. And maybe you knew one kid that was going through something, or that you thought they were going through something. And now it's not a total exaggeration. It's close. Almost everybody's going through something. And so these kids are more comfortable talking about it, their mental health and all these things, because it's all they know. And that's healthy that they're willing to talk about it. But it's getting me to the book. And the question is this, that this book, while maybe your grandkids were the inspiration, this book I know is also meant for parents or grandparents to be able to read with their kids or grandkids, or read about their kids and grandkids. Because quite frankly, Frank, and we see this a lot in corporate America, if the older generation, the boomers, the Gen Xers, even the older millennials, can't figure out how to connect with the Gen Z, then this world's not going to be a very good place. So how important is this book for the older generation as well?
Well, it's very important. Part of the design of the book was to make sure that the messaging was directly pointing at you. In other words, whoever the reader is, these messages are for you to read. I use the word "you" a lot. I didn't want a young person to miss out on the fact that the words in here were seriously put together for you, to help you, to give you wisdom. So an adult, whether that's a parent, a mentor, a coach, or just a trusted friend, can read this book to a person, and it will actually give you the verbiage. So what you'll find in the book are 3 different approaches. First, it's my advice and my wisdom from over the years. There's also scriptures in the book, and it's not preaching, it's just as a reference point. Those scriptures point to reinforce the messages. And then I have quotes from influential people that I'm a big person on reading autobiographies, including yours.
Thank you.
So you learn from those people, and that gives you an advantage in life, in my opinion, because the wisdom is critical to kind of reducing the learning curve that I talk about in the book. Everybody's going to go through problems and challenges. It's just a matter of how much help are you willing to embrace to make life a little bit easier on yourself. How can you avoid a lot of things that are probably going to come your way to deal with, but you don't have to be taken down by any one situation. Nothing needs to define what you're going to be in the future based upon what you're doing now. So I put a lot of information in the book, a lot of help in the book, and I think it helps the parent. And I was thinking about the single parent mother. And when you look at the statistics, particularly in the African American community, the father figure is not there. I think that is important, being someone who has been married for 47 years, and I have watched, my children have or provide two parents for their children. I think that it's so important to have that voice from a father or male's perspective. And so in that way, I think the book is very helpful to any adult who wants to sit down and have a conversation, which is recommended from many sources with these kids. They just need the wisdom.
Okay, last thing before I let you go. There are 40 of them, so I know we won't give away the other 39, but one lesson you'd like to leave us with, dangle a little bit of what people might get, just in general. What's one of your favorite lessons, or one of the most important lessons that you believe that you shared with readers in the book?
Well, every month, 5:30, Facebook Live, Frank Clay Jr. I know everybody's not going to get my book, and even if you get it, there's so much more that I could have said to your point that I didn't get an opportunity to say. So I go Facebook Live and I go deeper on the subjects. And so I'm believing this coming Monday, I'll be talking about will and willpower. And so right now, based upon the recent surveys that I'm reading now, what we're finding and what I believe is that our young people have to better understand the importance of will and manifesting willpower in what they're doing. One of the reasons why I think that young people are not achieving right now is because they are being depleted. They're being distracted from using the willpower that they have. And willpower is like a energy. And if it's not used properly, you lose it. So for example, when you look at the statistics concerning social media, they don't have the willpower to just put it down. It's consuming them. It's a design distraction that's taking them away from the things that they need to do in order to be the best version of themselves. So they must come in contact with the will that God has given them to achieve, to overcome adversity, to deal with all the challenges that are in these surveys. They have to do the work, and they have to understand that they have that within them. And I think I do a good job to start a conversation about how important manifesting your willpower is, particularly, from a physical standpoint, a mental standpoint. You got your mind, in the front part of your mind, you're dealing with looking at life from a longevity standpoint. The back part of your mind is like instant gratification and all that kind of stuff. So we if we don't eat right, we can't sustain our willpower. If we don't have the proper sleep. So when you look at all these statistics and put them all together, it begins to make sense that if people are spending so much time on social media, not getting sleep, not eating well, no wonder they have the challenges that they have.
Yeah.
And I think my book walks through that, but the message number 6 and number 7, I think, points us to the right kind of conversation we need to have with our children, which is you must do the work. You must have the will and exert the willpower to become the best version of yourself.
Amazon lists the reading age for this at 12 to 18, basically meaning that if you have a teenager or a little bit younger, all the way on up to the parents, the grandparents, this is going to help you. It's going to help them make for a great holiday gift as well. And that's one of the purposes of this episode, our book episode. The book is Yes, You Can, Empowering Your Life's Journey, Wisdom for Becoming the Best Version of Yourself. You can get it right now on Amazon from my friend, Frank Clay Jr. Frank, it is always great to see you. Happy holidays, and thanks so much for spending time.
Thank you very much. And my book was a top 25 bestseller on Amazon. And for 3 weeks, it was a #1 book in its category.
Congrats on that. Let's get it back up there for the holiday season because it'll make for an excellent stocking stuffer.
I just hope it helps some young people. That's my heart.
And that's where it came from. Congrats on all the grandkids and all of the family, and yet another book as well. It's always good to see you. Thanks, Frank.
Keep swinging.
My final guest is Mary Lou Kayser, returning for an encore and for good reason. This time, we're not talking about her success as a speaker and her career. She's an AI expert, longtime entrepreneur. Today, it's all about her latest literary release, which reads like poetry. And that might make some sense because she has done that in the past. The book is It's Not You, It's the Algorithm. The full title is It's Not You, It's the Algorithm, How to Slow Your Scroll and Start Paying Attention to Your Life Again. Who doesn't need this? If you already have this figured out, you're ahead of most people, but I think most of us can relate. It's provocative and slightly irreverent. It's a book that's a rallying cry you maybe didn't know that you needed, showing readers how to reclaim their sense of self in the digital age while still continuing to live. Available now at major book retailers, including Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Waterstones. Mary Lou, it is great to have you back. And you and I have already talked about some of this while we were waiting to start, because I can't stop thinking about this book. It's one of the best books I've read in years. I'm not pandering to the crowd. You're a phenomenal writer, but holy crap, this book excited me and scared me all at once, which I think was probably the purpose, right?
Yes, it excited and scared me too, because it forced me to really face my own habits, my own life. And it really did come out of hitting what I call algorithmic rock bottom, where at the beginning of this year, 2025, I looked ahead, and instead of being excited, I was full of dread and despair, because I thought, I can't keep doing this being posting, creating, just putting it out there with the expectation that somehow it was going to come back to me and reward me. And that's a pretty 30,000 foot view of where the book came from. But it really did come out of that place of stepping back and looking at what is happening to all of us and why. Yeah.
You know what I was thinking about was, and I think you kind of made some mentions to this throughout the book about, like, this isn't the first time this has happened. It's happened this way. It's really gone on since the beginning of time. I mean, if I think about our country, this is not a health segment here, but if I think about the way we eat, the way the food industry is stacked against our health, the way the medical industry, whether it be the way insurance works, the way it be drug prescriptions work. This is all stacked to make others rich and come at our expense. And if it tastes a little better, or in this case, has the dopamine effect, this is all just a drug. It is a drug that is being handed to us and changing our lives. So that's gone on since the beginning of time. But I think I would argue this one is harder than the rest because you don't even realize it's going on. It's like a silent drug. It's like an invisible drug, because once you buy that cell phone, that smartphone, good luck, right?
Good luck.
So, I mean, that I know I have that part right. There's so many strategies in this book that are there to help you break free from this. And oh, by the way, I want to let people know this is not an anti-change, anti-AI, anti-technology type of book. You're knee deep in it like the rest of us. This is not, do not go, because we're going to get left behind if we're doing that. But there's so many strategies in this book meant to help people. How can they help themselves break free from this never-ending, I don't know, cycle that we're in?
Yeah, and that is the question, isn't it? Because the systems have been set up that we have to have. Well, we don't have to unless you're living off grid. But I think everybody who's listening to this and watching this,
Mhm.
what needs to happen now, one of my arguments in the book is we need to learn to become cartographers of our life that include the phone use. And it really does come down to disciplining yourself. And one of the questions that I've taught myself and I practice, whenever I open my phone, I now ask myself, what are you looking for?
Mm.
Why are you in here? Because I, like everybody else that I see when I travel, when I'm in restaurants, when I'm even in the grocery store, when I'm driving down the street, do you know how many times I see people walking and they've got their face in the phone?
Yeah.
They're not even looking around
Mhm.
at they're just in, and maybe 1% of those people are following a map. But I think most people are either FaceTiming or watching a YouTube video or I don't even know what. It has become a pervasive problem and it's costing us. That's really one of my big points is it's costing us time, which you cannot get back.
Mhm.
It is costing us relationships because I I imagine there's not one person watching this, Joel, who hasn't been in a restaurant and seen either a couple or a family who are not engaging with each other because they all are looking at a screen. And to me, the bigger question is, why are we allowing this to happen? Are we okay with this? I'm not. I'm
Yeah.
not okay with it. If people who are watching and listening to this are, that's great. Keep living your life that way. I'm not here to point fingers, really. I'm here to point out something I've experienced, something that I'm seeing, and again, the cost to us in there's all kinds of things. Loneliness, relationships aren't strong. People are having trouble actually getting into relationships, let alone staying in them. And I do believe that this addiction to constant stimulation, to the pings, the buzzes, the videos is at the root. And the only way out is through that old adage from the 60s, right? The only way out is through, and it's through becoming more aware of your relationship with your devices.
It's a fascinating thing. And I know that you have a lot of exercises in the
Mhm.
book because I've challenged myself to do some of them. And it's really simple. If you were to do fill in the blank this, what would that look like? What would, if you put your, it's not even as simple as putting your phone down. If you got rid of certain apps, if you limited, like we all, if we have younger kids, you and I don't now at this point, but we all want to talk about screen time for our kids as they're coming up. What about for ourselves? Okay, this episode, as this episode comes out, you should call, by the way, the day this episode comes out and do a wellness check on me, because this episode comes out in
Got it.
December,
Mhm.
and my wife and I are going to go away for a month, and we're going to be somewhere warm, and we're going to be on a beach. And the whole point of it is to unplug and get away. And what I have told myself I'm going to do is I'm going to put on screen time that restricts all of my apps from, I don't know what time yet, say 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. So that if we're on the beach or we're doing something, I'm going to be okay. If there is breaking Royals news that is so big time, I will get plenty of text messages. So I'm still going to get texts.
Right.
I'm not sure about email. I don't think that there's email that I need that couldn't get to me in an emergency without it. I'd like to leave some apps open to read some news articles, not stuff that has been promoted on social media, but just say my Apple News where I can have an idea of what's going on in the world, and have my Kindle and a book and a paper book and some music. And that is it. And enjoy the sound of the ocean and enjoy the company of my wife. And I'd like to do that every single day. I don't know if I can do it, but it's going to be one heck of an experiment. So check on me.
I will.
What do you think about that?
I think that's fantastic. And I just want to be clear that I don't believe in digital detoxes. I don't think that's realistic because like any kind of extreme uh, restriction on whether, again, you were mentioning the food industry, certainly we've seen it doesn't work because you come back into the environment from which you tried to detox and everybody's doing it and you find yourself in it again. So it really does come down to, I think, this conscious awareness of, yes, the phone is here, the apps are here, the screens are here. This is our world now. What can we do to develop the skills? And I do provide at the end of each section some practical things to think about. And like anything else, it takes practice. You know, we've been so immersed for so long in this system now that it does feel strange when, and it'll be interesting to hear what your experience is like restricting yourself, but not completely detoxing, because it's not possible. I don't believe it's possible.
Yeah. And
where we are right now.
Yeah. And I don't know where to go with it. Like, I mean, when I look, okay, you have these audits at the end of every chapter, which are great. You know, one in here, one of the first ones, interrupt the autopilot 10-minute challenge. And that makes more sense, right? Like cold turkey so rarely works in most cases when we're so inundated with this in our life. What I don't want to do is go back to the house and then spend the next 5 hours on Instagram. But what I also know is that I go to Instagram, that's kind of become my go-to pleasure. I go to Instagram and scroll without even realizing it. And so that's like, that to me is a waste of time. Sometimes it's nice to be able to escape and do those things. So I want to see what that looks like. I don't want to eliminate it all, but I want to see what I could do without, and just see and sit with that. See what it feels like a little bit. You know, part of the problem with, say, reading on your phone is essentially you're reading on something that has a million tabs open.
Yeah.
Something really kind of silly. When I got up this morning, there's some newsletters that I like to read, but I never really get through them on my phone because my mind goes, oop, let me check at the calendar. Oop, let me do this. I know I'm like everybody else. Yep. So I said, you know what? Those aren't my habits on my iPad, even though I could do all those things on my iPad. I usually use my iPad for scoring for baseball and for pregame shows, postgame shows, and some movies maybe. And so I read the newsletters on my iPad, and by putting the phone away, it actually enabled me to read some things and not be interrupted. So I think, that's a lot of the point of what you're writing about, is just changing some of those habits.
Yeah.
And I just we are all walking around like zombies, which, oh, by the way, means we become worse listeners. We become, I think, less purposeful. It's hard to find your purpose or be aware of your purpose or moved by your purpose if you're not even aware of what's going on in the moment. How many days or hours a day do we have where we drive from point A to point B and don't really even ever remember getting there? I mean, that's right. I'm just speaking for myself, but I'm pretty sure that others are going through this. Most are going through it. You had a real life experience right around when the book came out. So coming to a Substack soon, but it could have easily been the open to your book. Tell me what happened.
So I was traveling back from the West Coast, and I left my phone in my friend's car who dropped me off at the airport. And I didn't realize I didn't have my phone until I was in the TSA line. I had about 20 minutes between the time my plane was boarding and getting through TSA. But at that point, I thought maybe I left it at curbside check-in, because oftentimes I have my phone out. I might have put it on it wasn't there. I had to scramble. First of all, I was extremely panicked. I mean, you want to talk about anxiety. I was sweating. I was close to tears. All I could think about, Joel, was I can't lose my phone because some stuff that's on there is not backed up.
Yeah.
And I just panicked. So then I thought, okay, calm down. It's not the end of the world. You're still alive. I got through TSA. I found a courtesy phone in the airport. I have memorized 3 numbers. That's
Mhm.
it. Those are the only 3 numbers I know by heart. My 2 children and my mom. I tried my son first because I knew my daughter would have her phone off at her work. And thankfully, the strange number coming from Salt Lake City, he answered. I explained what was going on, and through a series of kind strangers who allowed me to use their phone on the plane while we were flying to be texting back and forth because I had to communicate with my limo driver. So he knew I had arrived and where I was coming out. Like, it was a wake-up call for me, and I kept thinking the whole trip, Mary Lou, isn't this ironic? Here you have just launched a book about our dependency on these devices, and here you are experiencing the panic and anxiety of not having it. It was fascinating, but it was also something I don't wanna go through again.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
last thing before I let you go, there's so much more in the book,
yeah.
but I didn't even go here. I've been going here a lot lately, but your feeling in pushing against this algorithm, how you're balancing the need to stay relevant with AI, because it is moving at such a fast pace that if you don't figure out what was going on 2 weeks ago, you're already behind. And I know that you believe in change and you believe in all of this evolution, but how do you not get sucked in with it while still staying relevant?
So again, it comes down to being very clear about what it is you're doing. And that clarity is everything. It is everything. Because when you have a clear path about what you are trying to do with relevancy, you can make decisions that just all the other stuff goes away. It's just noise. So I would encourage anybody who's feeling that overwhelm of, oh my gosh, I can't keep up. First of all, we can't. So just accept that. That's the first thing. We cannot keep up with the speed. However, we can keep up with what we're clear about. And so by being super clear that, yes, I do need to use the algorithm to deliver my message in a very strategic way,
Mhm.
I can do that and then let the rest go. And again, that takes practice, it takes discipline, and it is possible.
The book is It's Not You, It's the Algorithm. And like Mary Lou said, unless you're off the grid, which means you're not hearing this anyway, this is going to apply to you. This is such an easy one for me to promote because it's so eye-opening. It's entertaining, by the way. It's beautifully written, very vulnerable too. We get a really nice piece of you and so much of who you are and your background with a lot of vulnerability. It would have been easy just to do a how-to, but I know you're not that kind of writer. It does read like poetry. It's beautifully written, and it'll stop you dead in your tracks and then offer solutions to help as well. How to slow your scroll and start paying attention to your life again. It's not you, it's the algorithm. Mary Lou, thank you so much for this incredible book and for coming back on Rounding the Bases. Big fan of your work. Thanks for spending time today.
Thank you, Joel.
And thank you all for checking this out. There are a million books, so just a few that I thought would be nice to check out of different types during this holiday season. You could also buy mine or either one of them and my new one that was out this year and so many others. We'll have it in the show notes. Happy holidays to everyone, and thank you so much to all of my guests.
Everybody knows Joe Goldberg. It's around the bases. Everybody knows Joe Goldberg.